Welcome back, everyone. This is Weird William, and today I'd like to channel my inner 3-year-old boy and talk to you guys about train stations. Now, if you're like me or a lot of other players I know, you may have a pretty sprawling base that has some interesting locations here and there, maybe a trading hall in one spot and a spider grinder under a mountain somewhere else and a scenic tower in another spot. And it can be nice to have this kind of setup next to your chest room or your portal, where instead of schlepping all around, you can just choose one of these lines and be on your way. This kind of station can also be nice for a nether hub if you have a smaller map and everyone's portal is within several hundred of each other. Or it can be nice for a spawn town, for new or old players to be able to just select the area around the town where they'd like to go and be on their way likewise. And so the way this works is you just come in, select a line with a specific location, and then you get in the cart, you push a button, and you're off on your way to that location. A new minecart is popped up out of a dispenser right here, ready for the next passenger. Any returning cart, regardless of what line it's coming from, will be shunted onto a single return line right here where the activator rail will pop off the new arrival and they'll be back at the station ready to go. Now, this particular station design is based heavily off of one of K1 Inc.'s old designs, but I've changed some of the rails and the redstone and added some things enough that I wanted to make my own design. I'll also show you a kind of end line terminus where you have a line coming in from the train station and the cart comes in, is broken, the player just pops out on the carpet, and they're good to go. And the cart is collected, placed under a dispenser like the launch area of the train station over here, and as players come in and get in the cart and leave, another cart will pop up like that. So you avoid any of that cart congestion and bumping around you can get if you just have a rail line coming into a single block with a button. That's always annoyed me in the past. So yeah, I'll show you how to build this, and also I'll talk about how the redstone works so you understand what exactly you're doing. Let's get started. Before I show you how to build this station, I'd like to tell you exactly how it works. I like the people to understand what they're doing in my tutorials. That's how I roll, but if you like, you can feel free to skip ahead to the building part. Now, this train station operates off of two key Minecraft mechanics, the first being how rails work in the game. So if you are coming in on a cart on a rail that ends, and it's ending up against a curve in another rail line, then the cart will hop off of the end and hop onto that curve and then continue on the line in the direction that it was going off of this line. However, a cart coming back, instead of hopping back off and coming this way, will be diverted on this turn and keep on going in a different direction. Incidentally, this kind of setup also acts as a junction, so if you input a redstone signal on or off, then you can twist the line like this to be diverting carts in a different way. So that's the first key mechanic. And if you come back and look at the train station, I have two rows of rails that take advantage of this. So first we have the cart leaving the station that is coming over here, hopping off this line, and it'll continue all down the row here until it hits the line that's been selected, where a redstone signal input into this curve of the rail will swap it out, and instead of the rail hopping off and continuing, it will be diverted this way off onto the line that has been selected. Likewise, this other row of rails right here acts as the shunt for all the returning carts, and these rails will not be changed. They'll just have every cart come in like this, for example, and turn, and then be hopping off here, continuing, hopping off, continuing all the way where it hops off here onto the return line. So all the different returning lines will be shunted this way back to the station. So let's talk about that other mechanic now. And you can see that I've pushed a button and this line is on. Why didn't it turn off after a second like a button impulse should? Let's talk about that. In Minecraft, when you have a setup with redstone that converts a brief button impulse into something more like a lever impulse, where you push the button and it's on permanently, then you push it again and it's off permanently, this kind of setup is called a T flip-flop. So let's talk about T flip-flops, get a little nerdy for Minecraft here. So with this station, we have, I push the button once, and if I push it again here, it's kind of modified. It does turn off briefly, but then it comes back on again. Because in this station, we have a different setup where the button will turn this on, but then you need any of these other buttons to push to turn that off. And then it will simultaneously turn the line associated with that button on. So we've kind of pulled apart the on and off features of a T flip-flop so that they're split up and you have the different buttons of any other line resetting all of the other lines and then turning itself on so that you only have one line active at a time. So to show you how this works, I'm going to pull out one of these T flip-flop setups and then a little bit of a line next to it. And so then you can see how the T flip-flop itself works and how it's being reset by other lines. So let's take a look over here. This is the key piece of redstone that determines whether or not that junction line has been activated to send a cart out for that line or let the cart pass along by. And in particular, this torch being off will let the cart pass on by, but if it's on, will divert the line. And the reason the torch is off now is because we have a comparator inputting a signal into the block the torch is on, which turns the torch off. The comparator in turn is on because we have just a single block of dirt in this dropper. And that's one of the main things comparators do. If you put it next to a container with items in it, it will create an on redstone signal coming out. And so how do we turn this torch on? To do so, we have to take the dirt out of this dropper. And to do that, we will send a signal into the dropper that will shoot the dirt into this hopper. And you might ask, well, why doesn't the hopper, which is pointing back into the dropper, just send the dirt right back in a split second later and turn the torch off? Well, that is because we have a redstone torch here that is locking the hopper. When a signal is going into a hopper, it locks it, it disables it so that it can't either pick up items or pass items along in the direction of the output. And to unlock this hopper, we need to push the button. So among other things, this button, when you push it, will activate this line of redstone that goes to all the different lines, all of which have a redstone torch down here, which unlocks all of the hoppers so that if any line is on, meaning the dirt is in the hopper so that this torch can turn on, then for the impulse length of the button, this redstone line will be turned on. It will power the blocks under all of the redstone dust and turn off all of these torches, enable the hoppers so that they drop all of their dust in and turn that torch off for all the lines. The second feature of the button for its own line is to send an impulse right behind it into this repeater, into this block, which buds the redstone signal down into this dropper. So for the entire duration, the button is sending the impulse through. The dropper is trying to send that dirt block into the hopper. And it will actually do so right at the end, right before the torch turns back on as the button impulse is turning off. And so as the dirt comes in, the torch turns back on and it locks the hopper before it can send the dirt back into the dropper. And so that will turn the torch on. This line will be on after resetting all the other lines. So let's see that in action. We're pushing the button. You'll see both torches underneath go off. And then this torch will go on because now the block of dirt is in the hopper and it's stuck there until we push any other button that is not activating any of the top part for this line. It's only resetting all of the other lines, and now the torch is off. So let's see how we then extend that onto a kind of rail junction. So I'm adding this quartz as I'm kind of showing more and more of what the build entails. So here we have the torch going into a block that is providing power to the side here to this junction. And so right now while it's off, a cart coming in will just hop off of this rail onto here and keep on going past this line because it's not turned on. But if we push the button here, then you can see the rail is swapping out. So now that the torch is on, the cart coming this way will be diverted and head out on that line. And of course, if we push this, then it is now again reset and a cart will pass on by to some other line that might be turned on. In the final builds, we have the rail, we have everything else, but now we have some redstone dust on top of this block that the torch is powering, and it's going up here, sending power into this block, which is in turn powering this redstone lamp, and that's what's showing and indicating that this line has been selected, that it's on, that the cart will be going to that location. I also like to put note blocks off the side or top of this block, and then you can have a nice cord, some kind of auditory indicator for passengers that this line has been selected. So let's turn this off, reset it, and then turn it on, and you can kind of see the whole thing working. Torch comes off down there, comes on over there, the rail is diverted, and this set of redstone is activated. You might have heard the note block, and this light is now on. And that's how each line is working. And so really it's just a matter of stacking these up and setting up the rails. So let's get to it. This is the kind of footprint we're going to need for this train station. It's actually very compact compared to a lot of train station designs. And so this will be wider or narrower on the sides depending on how many lines you have. For this tutorial, I'm building one with 4 lines, but you can have as many as 7 or as few as 2. In either case, you'll need a platform for people to stand on, like right here. It can go back as far as you like. It can be made of any blocks that you like. The control panel itself will be above this row of blocks right here, so people will kind of face it coming this way. And then no matter how many lines you have, you need a pit that is 2 deep and 6 back for that redstone, and then 4 more blocks on ground level for all of that rail spaghetti in the back that will be receiving carts and sending them out on the proper line. And to get this started, let's come down in here. Let's put a row of blocks right here. You can use any kind of blocks you like as long as we're using full blocks or half slabs as I'm showing it. And then for the 4 lines, we're going to come into, put a torch, skip a block, put a torch, torch, and torch. And then I have a gap of 2 blocks on this side as well. You may need 1 or more blocks on the side depending on how you want to do the cart return. If you want that to be coming out this way and then around or under or however you like. But this is the minimum space that you'd need. Now we're going to come down in here and put some redstone like this, so that you're going from one torch on one end all the way to the other torch on the other end. Then we're going to come down and put some droppers that are 2 blocks away from that torch, like so. Then we're going to shift click and put hoppers facing into those droppers, with the torch directly adjacent to it so it's locking that hopper. Then we're going to come over here, put comparators behind each dropper, and then put a block like so that the comparators will be putting their signal into, with a torch on top. And then we need to put a block of dirt into each one of these droppers. So let's put a 1 here. You should see the torch come off, and you only want 1 block. It can be a block of any type of block, but it has to be 1. Otherwise, when the line is activated, you'll send 1 block into the hopper, but another block will still be in the dropper and the line will not turn on. So now double check, you should have all your torches off. This is basically that entire level of bottom redstone finished. Let's keep going. For ease of construction in survival mode, I recommend you at this point block up 3 blocks on one side above that dropper, and then we're going to extend this across to the other dropper on the other side of the station, and then break the blocks in the middle. Since these hoppers are locked, you don't have to worry about any of these blocks falling in and filling it up as you break them. And then we're going to take a half slab and put it on the top of this lower block, extend it out 2 over there, and we're going to extend these across to the other side, and then extend those out as well like that. And we can break these in the middle. We don't need those anymore. And we're going to put some redstone dust like this. It'll link up to this line down here, but don't worry about that. We'll fix it later. And we'll put a repeater here. It has to be on 2 ticks for the timing of that hopper and dropper exchanging the dirt. So get that set up. And then we'll put blocks on top of each of these torches like so. And this is really the middle level of that redstone finished, and it should look like this. At this point, it's a good idea to get the control panel set up. So start over here, and we're going to block across above this line of redstone dust, all the way across, but then we're going to knock out a block here for this rail line to come in on this side, and over here for the rail line on this side. I also, but you don't have to, but I like to put a different colored block over here where the buttons will be, just so that it draws attention to that button, makes it a little more obvious how to use this train station. And then we'll put the buttons like so, making sure that that block is the one directly in front of the redstone signals coming out like that. And then at this point we can put another layer of blocks over here, and then put redstone lamps above the buttons like so. And then we're going to fill that in with blocks for the rest of this control panel like so, until we have something that looks like this. And so that's all set up. You can put signs like this or up above to name the location. And then we'll come back here and build the rest of this over here. let's move on over to the tower we built over one of these droppers, and then we'll extend a half slab off the top like that, and like that. At this point we can break that bottom block and the top block, put a half slab like so. We can extend these half slabs down the line like this, and 2 off the front for each of these lines, and then break the middle one like this. Then we can take some redstone and put it across the top like this. Now at this point, thinking about the note blocks, if you want note blocks, then I'll tell you about that. If you don't, you can just put any block right there. But if you want to have a note block of a certain type on top, then you can put it like this. Now note blocks will make a sound depending on the block beneath them as they're powered. So if you have any block right there and put note blocks on the side, since there's nothing under them here, they'll be powered and play a piano note as the default. Otherwise, if you like, you can put the particular sound blocks underneath like this, and that should not interfere with any of the redstone. And then if you want a kind of 3-note chord, you can do something like this. So it's really up to you how you want to set that up. But again, that's all optional. So up to you. Let's just say, put these here for now, and we're going to have a 2-tone piano kind of chord for each one. So we're going to put blocks like this down the row, and then just put note blocks on either side. And you can tune those however you like to do whatever you want. At this point, we can start with the rails. Let's get going with that. First, let's extend out either side, coming from the entrance and exit areas. On either side of the station, you can use half slabs or full slabs, or rather full blocks. That's up to you. And so there we go on that side. And then we can build the rails kind of coming out like that. And the thing that is really tricky about the rails is that in Minecraft, the rails, depending on the direction, their kind of orientation with respect to what direction of the map they're facing, their default junction configuration will be different. And so for this particular station I built over here, the launch area is on the right side over here. But depending on what direction your station is facing when you build it, the launch area might have to be on this side, and then the return line may need to be on this side. So just watch how I build it and just mirror it depending on what your particular station is doing in terms of how it's facing. So now that we have these lines over here, we're just going to start and build out the junction lines, because we need to do that first before we can really build the return line, because we don't know which direction we want all the carts to be returning to, which side. So let's get a line like this, put a power rail here, a normal rail next to this block, and then a power rail facing out. And just keep on going down the line like this until you have something that looks like that. Then we can do something over here that connects these up like that. And then at this point you want to go back to the station control panel and push all of the buttons kind of down the row so that we're activating all of those junctions and then turning them off. And then after we do that, we'll see what the default direction is that these line junctions want to be facing. And then to turn off that last one, we can put a reset button down here, like I've just put there, and then press it, and that'll turn off all of the lines. And here we go. So now we can see that unlike my other station, I will in fact need a launch area over here, because that way the cart will by default be hopping onto all of these rails and skipping all of the lines except for the one that's selected. So if I go over here, push a button, you'll see that if I leave with a cart over here, it'll start skipping all of these lines until it hits this one with the redstone signal, and then it'll be diverted heading out. And let's reset all the lines just for ease of seeing what we're doing over here. So at this point, since I know I want the cart to come back here when it's returning, we can set that up as well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on one side and then end up, and let's see, sometimes when you do it like this, it'll by default, no, so that's not setting it up the right way by default. So what we're going to have to do is break this and then start filling this in. We're going to break all of these. In fact, it still keeps the turns, so no worries. But then we're going to kind of go like this and just go on down the line. so that for each line coming out, you have this kind of return rail. And then we can go back in and fill in those power rails. Then we can take levers and power them all. I hope this was clear to you, and if not, you can go back and watch this. But you really have to be careful how you set this up so that you're setting it up so that the return line is coming back in the right place, and that you make sure you know that your launch line is going to be coming out from the right side, and you build it on the right side. And let's get to doing that. We've figured out that the launch side of the train station will be on the left side with respect to the control panel. And so let's extend the rail a little bit over here and put a launch button like this, and then 2 power rails next to it like this. Then we're going to punch this out and put in a dispenser, not a dropper, but a dispenser facing up like that. And put a power rail on top like so. Now under here we're going to punch out some blocks, so let's punch down here, punch 2 down here, and then 1 underneath the button block. Then we're going to come back 2 more, and then down here as well. And so for this, we're going to put a repeater facing into the dirt block that's right under this dispenser. And we're going to put 3 more repeaters like so. Then we're going to put redstone dust under this button block, and then connecting these repeaters down here. And then all the repeaters need to be on 4 ticks. So what this is doing is when we push the button, it will power the power rail to launch the cart. And it will also activate a signal on a delay to dispense a new cart. And so that cart will be dispensed right after the power rail turns back off from the button signal. Otherwise, if it dispenses with the power rail still on, it'll shoot the cart forward a little bit too, that empty cart. And that's no good. And then over here, we can fill this in like so. And then if we like, we can kind of fill that in, put some dirt on here perhaps, and we're good to go. One thing you will want to do as well is break this out over here and then have some hoppers coming into that dispenser, coming about 2 away from whatever side you have over here, because we're going to put a cactus next to it on one of these sides, and we can't put a cactus next to a block or that cactus will break. So let's get to building that automatic return system back into that dispenser. Let's come on over to the return side of the station, and then we'll probably want a power rail coming in to keep that cart moving, and then maybe put the activator rail right there. I like to put a kind of hidden torch underneath the activator rail, and in this case you could even put a torch there to power those power rails, and then cover it back up. Now you can have this return cart go back however you like. It can go under the station, around, over the station, as long as it's looping around to the other side to that dispenser and the hopper's feeding into it. What I like to do is maybe build a little doorway right here, and then you can put something like a gate and a banner, maybe yellow with the rest of the station, like this on the gate, and then the cart just kind of disappears into the wall, out of sight, out of mind, after the passenger is ejected inside of that control panel area. And then for this, let's just loop the rail around back. You'll need about 1 power rail for every 5 normal rails for that empty cart to be returned all the way along the rail. But I'll do that later here. Let's just do this for now. And then some power rails accelerating into a cactus. Let's put it on this side since we're coming in from the other way. Let's get that cactus and put it over here. So now the cart will come in, hit the cactus, break, and fall into the hopper and be returned to the dispenser. Now at this point, let's fill in the dispenser with some carts, put a cart on top ready to go, and put some power rails here, and I think we'll be ready to take this train station for a spin. Now this is all set, the rails are powered, and we've got some minecarts in the dispenser and one on top. I've built a line out from one of the lines, and let's imagine this is 200 or 300 long perhaps, and we've come to a spot where we want it to stop. Now I'll show you how to build this end terminus, and you can mirror it depending on which way the rail is coming from, just like you would have to mirror the launch area that I've built over there if you wanted to build it on the other side, for example. But let's say we want the rail to come out a little bit over here, so let's put a dispenser down inside the ground like this. Then we will put 2 hoppers going into it on one side, And then we will put a button coming kind of 1, 2 in front and 1 on the side, like this. And then power rails coming off over here, and power rails will be coming in over here. This will be where the rail comes in. So what we can do is have this rail come in like this, so that any incoming rails will hit a cactus that'll be right there. And then have a rail like this so that any outgoing rails, any outgoing carts will be coming like this. Now we will take some sand and a cactus, like so. Put that right here. And the cactus over there. And then we'll break out this area just like we did before. So down 2, down 2, down 1 under the button, and then 2 back, like this. Then get us some repeaters and set that up as before. So we have 1 right here, 2, 3, 1 going into the block under the dispenser, and then some redstone dust hooking that up. So the signal will come from the button onto this dust, into the block, into the repeaters, which will all be on 4 ticks again. And then connect them up over there. At this point we can just fill this in to create a kind of cradle. So something like this, coming over the cactus, and maybe like this. So just like that. And we can put a torch underneath here. Let's do that as well. Redstone torch to power these rails right here. Okay, there we go. And if you want, you can put a banner over here to kind of cover that hole, and some carpet over here. I just think it looks a little bit nicer, but that's totally up to you. So let's go back and test the station. Let's put a cart on top of here, like that. And then let's go back over here. And so that line will be for this button over here. All right, let's get in the cart and push the button, and we should be sent out onto that line. Come over here, we're popped out right here, and we're good to go wherever this location is. Then we'll get back in this cart, push the button to go home, back to the station. We'll be diverted back to the return line, and we'll pop out here, and the cart returns, hits that cactus, falls in the hopper, and is returned back under there. And there we go. I think this train station will work really well for you, but as always, feel free to leave any comments, questions, or concerns in the comment section of the video, and I will try to reply as quickly as I can. Thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.